It's very much a pleasure of mine to be able to introduce our speaker for today. Tom Cassidy began his career in law enforcement as a Lincoln police officer in 1974. He has served as the Sheriff of Lancaster County and held the position of Lincoln's Chief of Police from January of 1994 through May of 2011. And on June 1st, 2011, he was appointed Public Safety Director by Mayor Beitler with responsibility for the Lincoln Police Department, 9/11 Emergency Communications, and Lincoln Fire and Rescue. He holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from the University of Nebraska at Omaha and a Master of Arts degree in political science from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Let's give Tom a big realtor welcome.
That's not that shaky. Thank you for having me as your luncheon guest. I'm pleased to be here. I've already accomplished something by attending this. I picked up this flyer. I'll be able to deliver that to the Vice Unit. Always good to have the inside scoop on what the job is going to be. And I think this afternoon I may have to call George Gascon, the police chief in San Francisco, and give the real report on what the realtors went up to there last week. I want to tell you about something called location-based services. And this is eventually going to circle around to something of interest to realtors. But my story is going to start with a beer. I became interested in location-based services 4 years ago next week. I was in Los Angeles. I'd never been to Los Angeles before other than to fly in and fly out. But I was there overnight, and I was staying in a hotel downtown, a Marriott on South Figueroa Street. And that evening, I decided to go get a bite to eat. I'd been invited out by some of the other people attending the meeting, but I don't know, something about going out with 12 of your closest friends, that's not always the best way when you've got a one day and have to travel the next morning. So I decided to take the mature choice for the first time in my life and just go out and get a bite to eat, go back to my hotel room and catch up on some work. And I kind of like to eat at places like Upstream in Omaha or Laszlo's. The reason I like brew pubs is because I like beer, and I also figure that anyone that brews their own beer and goes to that much trouble probably makes their own salad dressing and bakes their own bread, and they don't buy their beef in frozen patties. And I think you'll find that's true. Brew pubs are generally pretty good places to eat, and if you're traveling alone, you can sit up at the bar with a few other expatriates and generally have a pretty enjoyable time, whereas if you walked in and asked for a table for one, and you're a man of a certain age, there's a pervert alarm that goes off in the kitchen to alert the servers that there's a creepy guy at a one-top. So at any rate, I was walking down Figueroa Street looking for a place to eat. I pulled out my brand new Android smartphone with the Android, Motorola Droid, brand new. In November of 2009, I searched for brew pubs, and brew pubs popped onto my map as I walked along. Just like gas stations or parks or whatever will pop on the Garmin or the nav system in your motor vehicle. And you can tap on that and get the details. I ended up going to a place called the Bonaventure Brewing Company. As I was walking along the sidewalk, I actually read a review. It was pretty favorable. Fortunately, I didn't head crash into a no parking sign or anything like that. As I was walking and reading on my smartphone at the same time. But I had this sudden thought that if I can do this with brew pubs, why couldn't I do this with some of the police data that I have? For example, why couldn't I do a search that worked just like this, only instead of brew pubs, I would have searched for registered sex offenders' home addresses. Or the location of other residential burglaries. Or the home addresses of people who have arrest warrants that were issued by the courts in the past 30 days. Because I already had all of that data, and already had it in a desktop mapping application that we've been using for well over 10 years at the police department, and that was the sudden thought I had in November of 2009. Came back to Lincoln, found a couple of collaborators at the university, applied for a grant from the National Institute of Justice, which is the research arm of the Justice Department, and I became the co-inventor of an app that did just that. It displayed for police officers nearby crimes, nearby persons of interest, parolees, people with arrest warrants, registered sex offenders, drug court clients, gang members, and so forth. And it's being used by police officers here in Lincoln, and it's also been commercialized, so it's it's being used in a few other places as that business starts to grow. Unfortunately, I didn't have the sense to apply for a provisional patent, but nonetheless, I'm pretty proud that something we kind of birthed here in Lincoln is becoming a commercial product and pretty mainstream. Now, about 6 months after that happened, about 6 months after we started working on this application, I noticed an application out in the Apple iTunes store called Realtor.com. Do realtors use Realtor.com? I cannot understand for the life of me why anyone would look for a house in any other way other than driving around with their iPad or their Android tablet running Realtor.com. And Realtor.com is exactly the same application as the app that we developed, which we call P3I, by the way, for proactive policing, police patrol information. It's exactly the same application, works exactly the same way. As you move around the city, it simply shows you the new listings that are nearby you. You don't have to adjust your location because the app recognizes that you're on the move, and the GPS embedded in your device moves the map for you so that you're always looking at the listings that are right around you. Or in my case, you're always looking at the registered sex offenders and the recent crimes that are right around you. So that's what a location-based service does. A location-based service delivers information to a mobile device based on information about that device's location. And everyone has a smartphone these days. Most people have tablets these days. Those devices have embedded GPS. They've also got something called WPS, wireless positioning systems, which can locate you even if you don't have a GPS signal in a building like this. WPS can still approximate your location based on either what cell phone tower your device sees or on what wireless access point it's associated with. So it's an emerging technology that has now become pretty mainstream. This is why you don't have to tell WeatherBug or Intellicast where you are. Your weather app already knows that you're in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it can deliver you the forecast here in Lincoln, Nebraska without you ever having to tell it where you're at. So location-based services are becoming quite widespread, used in lots and lots of different ways these days, and lots of applications are going to continue to grow. LBS has got great potential for things like inventory management, and it's got a lot of potential in public safety other than the use that I described. We're working on an application for Lincoln Fire and Rescue right now. It's a location-based service application called Pulse Point. And Pulse Point delivers to a mobile device information about sudden cardiac arrests that occur in public places. So someone that keels over at the YMCA or on the street or at a middle school, Pulse Point delivers to citizens who might be potential rescuers information about where that sudden cardiac arrest is, and also information about where something else is that's pretty important in the case of sudden cardiac arrest. Any guesses? AED. Automatic extra defibrillator. So we have about 218 AEDs that are registered here in Lincoln, where people have reported those to us. We have a program for registering the location of AEDs just for this purpose. And Pulse Point real soon will be ramped up here in Lincoln so that we'll not only have the potential of engaging citizens out there who are willing to be rescuers and perform CPR, but we'll also have a great little database of here's the AEDs that are close to you right now. Sioux Falls, South Dakota is the only other city using Pulse Point in our part of the world right now. It's being heavily used on the West Coast, and that's where it was originally launched. It's out in Santa Clara, I believe. So at any rate, those are location-based services in public safety. Back to realtors now. I want to tell you about a location-based service that's out there for realtors that I think everybody ought to have and ought to use, and it's called crimemapping.com. It is not available for Android. However, you can still use crimemapping.com on an Android phone just within your browser by going to that very website, crimemapping.com. If you're an Apple iPhone or iPad user, there is a specific app called crimemapping.com And again, it's pretty much identical to Realtor.com, works the same way. It displays for the public a selection of crimes right in your immediate area based on the location of your device at the time. And the reason I really like crimemapping.com is I think it's good for people to know about the crime that is occurring in their own neighborhood. I think it's a very valuable little tidbit of information. The more people know about what's going on, the better prepared they are to take preventative measures, and the more likely they are to recognize suspicious behavior when they see it, be willing to pick up the phone and call the police. So that's the reason that I really like the idea of citizens being able to look at where crime is occurring, and particularly near their own residence. CrimeMapping.com has a great feature. You can go to the website on a desktop computer or on an Android device. You can get the app on your iPhone. I see a few people are downloading that now. That's good. I want you to do that. There's an orange button up near the top title bar in CrimeMapping.com that's labeled Crime Alerts. And Crime Alerts are an even further enhancement. With Crime Alerts, you can sign up to get push email notifications. And it's very, very simple to do, and it's absolutely free. You enter the address you're entered in, you enter your email address that you want to be notified at, and you can select the crimes that you want to be notified of. I just leave it at the default, and the distance from that address. So I've signed up for several addresses. I'm registered for crime alerts within 500 feet of 4940 Bear Creek Road. That's my address. I'm registered for crime alerts within 500 feet of my daughter's home address up in Omaha, and also my son's address here in Lincoln. So I know about crimes that have occurred in TJ's neighborhood, and Kelly's neighborhood, and my neighborhood that I would not know about otherwise, because I get that push email generally the day after the crime report was made that tells me about it. And I got one just before I came in, as a matter of fact. And I haven't looked at it yet, so I'll do that right now. So I'm kind of curious what happened. I think this was in my neighborhood down in Cripple Creek. Yeah, it's a 6,000 block of Cumberland Drive. And it's a theft from a construction site where tools were left there and they were taken sometime yesterday, just reported last evening at about 9:30 p.m. So there's a big house under construction down there. Anyone know where that area is? Boy, the next time you're southbound on 56th Street between between Old Cheney and Pine Lake Road, if you're southbound, look off to your right, and there's a McMansion of considerable proportions sprouting up there, and that would be the location of this. There's only a couple of addresses on Cumberland Drive, so I'm reasonably certain it's got to be that construction site. So based on knowing that this happened within 500 feet of my home, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be more watchful for any kind of suspicious behavior. I'm an early riser. I'm generally out the door sometime in the 6 o'clock range. Usually a couple times a week. I'm waiting for Madonna Proactive to open at 5 a.m., including this morning. And what I would have done this morning, had I had this information, is I would have detoured and probably driven down through Cumberland Drive over 56th Street before heading to Madonna Proactive. I'd be more watchful. I'm going to be on the lookout for anyone that looks unfamiliar to the area, or anyone that looks like they might be out hunting for scrap metal or otherwise acting suspiciously in that neighborhood. I've changed a couple of my habits based on what I've learned about crime in my own neighborhood, and I swim in this information. I have full access to the police records management system. I have crime maps and mapping applications and online reports of all kinds. But I would not have known about this particular crime simply because it would have been lost in the volume of what goes on. There are going to be about 350 incidents handled by the police department today. There isn't anybody who knows what's going on in the city. No one single person, simply because of that volume. And what Crime Alerts does is it alerts me to these things that are happening in my own neighborhood. I think it's a great thing for everyone to be signed up. I think particularly people that are interested in geography and real estate, realtors, ought to have this application. And I don't see any reason why we don't have about 100,000 people subscribed here in Lincoln instead of 12,000. So heartily recommend that to you, and keep your eyes open and your ears open for Pulse Point. We hope to have that rocking on the Lincoln Fire and Rescue side